I'm starting it.
Okay.
We have to be careful what we say now, don't we?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We'll give everybody just a minute or so to join us as we do have lots of information to get through. And all right. Good morning, everyone. Give everybody just one more minute. Small group today.
Maybe everybody's already taken off for the holiday
I
weekend.
know, right?
You guys let us know next time. We'll go with you.
All righty. Yeah, it's looking pretty small, Sunita. So if you want to go ahead and get started, that would be great.
Okay, we can get started. Thank you everyone for joining us today, our 89th session. We hope to have more people on, but usually they sign up a little bit later because we kind of go over the same things in the beginning. So thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be with us again today. A little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions, can you please put them in the Q&A instead of the chat? That would really help us out. If you have any tech questions, can you please put them in the chat? The other thing is this webinar, this video will be available at ASKSBDC.com. Probably a couple of hours to the next day, it will be available for you. If you want a copy of the slide deck, please complete the survey and ask Bree for the slide deck. We will be happy to provide it to you at that time. If you have questions in regards to PPP, EIDL, or any other loan product or finance questions, please let us know which one you're talking about so that way we can answer the questions correctly to the best of our ability. Again, if you have tech questions, please place them in the chat, and Q&A questions, please place them in the Q&A. Things are still changing all the time. So this information is pretty current as of last night. Next, please. This is brought to you by the Northern California SBDC. We are supported by the SBA and also the state of California to be able to provide you this workshop at no cost. We do one-on-one advising and also training. So thank you so much again for being here today with the Finance Center. We are presenting this to you today for our 89th session. We specialize in getting loans for small businesses. That's what we do. My name is Sunita Maharaj. I am the director. We have Steve Roth here, a lending specialist with us. Bree Palmer, our program assistant, and then not here with us, but we have a total of 15 Finance Center specialists that can help you with anything regarding small business finance. Next, please. SBDC Northern California footprint. We have 36 counties that we can help in the Northern California. Us ourselves, a finance center, we can help everybody in these 36 counties, but you do have centers within your counties as well. And there are 18 full service centers, 6 satellite centers, and 35 outreach locations. We have 2 tech programs. Sorry, I keep forgetting to change this, but we have about 11 affiliate programs and a workforce of over 500 very specialized individuals. Next, please. If you want to contact us or sign up with the Finance Center, you can do that right here, financing-simplified. And then if you would like to find your local center, you can go to norcalsbdc.org to find your local center. Next, please. What's on the agenda today? We're going to go over what's new. That is only one page today. We don't have several pages like we usually do. We're going to go and we're going to talk about the California Rebuild Fund also. We haven't talked about this in several months, but since the grant is no longer there, the Rebuild Fund is there. So Steve is going to go over that as well. He's going to go over the PPP, EIDL, and I will be going over the EIDL, the Targeted EIDL Advance, SBA Debt Relief, the SVOG, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, the ERC, which is the Employee Retention Credit, SBA updates. I have a feeling they won't be able to make it today, but we're going to go through all the updates here and I will provide you some additional information that I have. Upcoming webinars and then the Q&A, and I believe I did not update the webinar, so I apologize for that, but I can tell you exactly where to go to find that information. And then throughout this whole presentation, we are doing Q&As. CaseForce is here with us today, so thank you so much. So I'm going to go over their disclaimer really quickly. Just one second. The office hours are intended to be a resource for small businesses with fewer than 25 employees and for nonprofits to learn information about various resources and legal issues relevant to the COVID-19 pandemic. They are not intended to offer legal advice, and the leaders of the office hours are not able to represent office hour participants as their attorneys. The session is intended to address issues related to the pandemic and the pandemic only, and panelists aren't able to comment on general non-pandemic related issues. Today we do have Charles Comey, and he will be here a little bit later to answer some general corporate business questions. So hopefully he'll be able to answer those questions. If not, we will take your questions and we will try and get them answered for you and get back to you. So thank you again. Let's see, we are going to go on to what's new, and I'm going to let Steve take it from here. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thanks, Anita. Well, good morning, everyone. So what's new, as most of you probably know, the PPP program is closed at banks, lenders, larger lenders, but the program is still open at some CDFIs. CDFI stands for Community Development Financial Institutions. It's a group of lenders that was started back in the early 1990s, and they're basically smaller lenders designed to work with smaller businesses and local businesses. And they still have funding, and several of them are still open for non-bank clients. EIDL and the expanded EIDL program are both still open. So if you never received an EIDL loan in 2020, you can apply for EIDL now. If you did receive an EIDL loan in 2020, you can apply for the expanded EIDL loan, which is open. And the loans are now in queue and they should be processed soon. The Shuttered Venue Operating Grant Program still has funding and is open and is making grants as of this week, I think. But the program itself has accepted applications, they're processing them, and grants should begin to flow out, if not this week, then the first week of June. The California Relief Grant Program is closed. It closed last week. And all of those emails should have gone out by now. And the Restaurant Revitalization Fund effectively closed on Monday, May 24th. That was the last date for applications. The program is overfunded. There's about 28.6 billion in the program's authorization. And as of Monday, they had over $70 billion of grant applications. So they've closed down. Next one, Bree. Thank you. For the California Relief Grant, your communication should flow through Lendistry. And we've included their 800 number and their email address. But Lendistry makes the grant decisions, and Lendistry sends out all notices. As of today, the 26th of May, all the notices should have been sent out. There is no more waiting list and there's no next round of funding. But if you do have any questions, contact Lendistry. Next one. A new program that's just getting started is the California Rebuilding Fund. And it's ready to accept applications. The website is caloanfund.org. You apply through a link on the site, and then your application is matched with one of the small business lenders who's in the program. It's got $500 million. It's a grant, not a loan. It's a grant program, but it is a loan in nature, and it runs through the California Office of Small Business Advocate. Next one. So funds are being distributed through 12 participating CDFIs, those small business lenders, community lenders, but you don't apply to a CDFI, you apply through the central website and your loan application is distributed for you. The loan amount can be equal to revenue for 3 months or $100,000, whichever is less. So $100,000 is the cap. It says grant, but it's actually a loan. The terms of 4.25% for 3 to 5 years. The first 12 months are interest only, and then the amortization would begin in year 2. Next one. Thanks. So, this is just a list of everything you need. By now, anyone who's been through one of these programs knows there's a lot of information, but, your business and tax returns, your bank statements, who owns the company, the name, address, if it's a sole proprietor, your social security number, if it's a corporation, your EIN, if you have an ITIN, then you'd use that. Phone number, email. There shouldn't be anything terribly different or exotic about what I've seen on the application form. They'll have a brief description for your COVID-19 impacts, evidence of legal formation, etc., copy of a lease agreement. So go to the website, take a look at the application, fill it out. It should be a great program. 4.25% is an excellent rate. No interest for a year. There are a couple of caps. The business cannot be larger than 2.5 million in sales for its last fiscal or calendar year, and it can't have more than 50 employees. So the CA Rebuilding Fund is really focused on smaller businesses, and it's going to flow through the CDFIs. They should be open for applications today. Next one. Payroll Protection Program, favorite, been going on for over 13 months. So as I said, the program has ended at banks, but you can still apply at selected CDFIs until May 31st, which is Memorial Day, but the application process is automated. So as long as the application process is time and date stamped as of 5 p.m. on Monday, the 31st, you're in the system. And the system has another 30 days through the end of June for the final funding. But remember, when the funds have been fully expended, the program will end. So there are only a few days left. If it were me, I'd get my application in by Friday. I would not wait to do it over Memorial Day weekend. If anything happens and you need any help, nobody will be there. So if you've been waiting for whatever reason, do it now. And make sure you include your SBA application number from your first draw. There's a $2 million loan maximum, 300 employees or less. But the key gating criteria for the second PPP draw is whether or not you had a 25% or more gross receipts fall off between 2020 and 2019, but only for one calendar quarter. So either January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December of 2020 versus 2019. If any one quarter was down by more than 25%, then you qualify and you can fill out the PPP application. Next one. Thanks. So you do have to state that if you did get the first draw PPP loan, you will or have used the full amount by the time you get the funds. And most people should be able to do that given the nature of the program. You have to have been in business as of February 15th, 2020. So versus the first draw PPP loan, it moved up a year. In the beginning, you had to be in business as of February 15th, 2019. Now it's 2020. So if you organize later, you can still apply. And again, it's open to nonprofits of different kinds. So this is a program that you can use if you're a for-profit or a nonprofit company. Next one. So remember, the process remains the same. It's a little different because now you only have the CDFI, but the borrower is going to apply for PPP2 at a participating community development financial institution. You can just go online, California CDFIs, and there are hundreds of them. Not all of them will be open. So you need to find the ones that are still open. Now the lender reviews the application. The lender works with you, the borrower, to get the information that's needed and make sure you're eligible. They do the underwriting, and they're the face of the program to you, the borrower, throughout the process, from the first application until forgiveness. The lender approves the PPP application, sends it to the SBA. The SBA does its own review. If they approve it, they'll assign a loan guarantee number, send it back to the lender. The lender will tell you that you've been approved, and they'll start the paperwork and they'll transfer the funds. If you've been denied, the lender should send you a note as to why you were denied. And they should be the ones to work with you to fix whatever the problem is. And some of the problems are just administrative. A number got transposed on your EIN or your social security number. Almost all the problems have been resolved. The lender then informs the borrower, generates legal forms, and they file the paperwork with the SBA when the transaction's complete. So the borrower is your partner in doing this. You want to work through your borrower, through your lender, in order to get the paperwork done. Excellent. Thanks. The process can take 2 to 4 weeks, but remember, it's going to end on Monday, and effectively, I think it ends on Friday. So I don't know why anybody would wait, but whatever you do, if you haven't applied, get your application in. If you had a problem before, try and work with your bank to fix it. Everyone does have until June 30th or when money runs out to correct any problems that have developed during the application process. And the SBA is doing a really good job. They're turning these things around in 2 to 5 business days. Actually, it's shorter now because the number of applications have gone down. And your lender is your point of contact. Work with your lender. Next one. So I wish I could tell you which CDFIs are open on a daily basis, but it's not possible. But find one as soon as possible, like today, if you haven't already applied. Hopefully a CDFI who has made all the updates for the sole proprietor application form. If you get an application into a CDFI and get the SBA loan guarantee number before funding has been expended, you will be funded. And when the SBA gives the guarantee number for a PPP loan, they add it to their total, or their running total. So obviously they have no legal right to exceed what Congress has authorized. And then problems with PP1 documentation are going to be very tough to correct in time. So if something happened when your first PPP loan was filed, and now the second PPP loan flags it, you're going to have to jump on it with your lender to work through the problems. Next one. So a couple of questions. Should I apply for forgiveness for the first PPP now? And the answer is yes. You work through your lender to do that. You don't file the forgiveness documents with the SBA. You file the forgiveness documents through your lender's portal. They then look at it, they pass it on to the SBA. So you want to work through your bank, your savings and loan, your credit union, whoever you applied through, they're the ones who you're going to do your forgiveness through. But all the forms are now in place and everyone should be doing it. Should you apply for the second draw with the same one you used? It's really not an applicable question. Most people went through banks, the banks are closed. So whoever you applied with for the first draw, you'll wind up with one of the open CDFIs right now. Do you have to use the same lender? The answer is find an open CDFI, right? The banks are closed. They've shut down their portals. Can you apply for more than one lender? The answer is yes, but it would be very foolish to do this now with 3 days left to go. You really want to get your application in and try and connect with someone at the lender so that your application's in process and it's been worked on, so it will be funded eventually. Can you get more than one PPP loan? The answer is no. It's one PPP1 loan and one PPP2 loan per EIN or social security number. Do you need to have forgiveness for the first loan before applying for the second loan? No, don't wait. If you haven't applied for forgiveness for the first loan, it's irrelevant. If you've applied but you haven't heard back, it's also irrelevant. Forgiveness for one and getting the second are independent. Next one. So if you didn't get a PPP1 loan, you're not a PPP2 borrower. You are simply a PPP1 borrower. And the websites that are still open will vector you to one of the two forms. So if you never got a PPP-1 loan, that's very good news because there's no 25% revenue reduction needed if this is the first time through the program. Forgiveness for the first and the second draws will be the same. Should you call the SBA? No. Work through your lender. Your lender is your contact point for the PPP process. And then, how long it takes to get funded? Basically, most people are getting funded very quickly now, 1 to 2 or 3 business days from the time you sign the documents until the time the money is in your account. I've had several clients sign documents in the morning and be funded for the loan in the afternoon. Can you correct the application after it's submitted? Yes, until it's funded and the 1502 form is filed by the lender with the SBA. But for right now, the answer is probably on a practical basis, no, because there's not enough time left in the program. So if you do make a mistake on your PPP application, it's going to be very difficult to correct it in the time left for the program to be open. And one PPP-2 loan per EIN, employer identification number, or social security number. And then once the loan is funded and recorded, it can't be changed. Next one, Bree. Thanks. So if you do have any problems, questions, get help today. Some of the CDFIs are still open. Lendistry is one of them, and you have Lendistry's contact information, in this deck. Lendistry is still taking applications for both 1 and 2. They have updated their form for the new formula for sole proprietors. And so I can't stress enough to apply today. Next one. Forgiveness terms, they haven't changed. The PPP-2, should be spent on payroll and other eligible expenses. Remember, at least 60% of payroll costs have to of the use of proceeds go for payroll costs. It can't be more than that. The government is perfectly happy if you spend 100% of the PPP funds on people. That's what it was really designed for. But 60% is the minimum. The 60% is base payroll costs. Things like health benefits, retirement benefits, payroll taxes, et cetera, are all over and above base payroll. There is a limit, remember, per employee of $100,000 a year. And so that's $1,923 a week. So that's the maximum you can assign to the PPP use of funds. For loans under $150,000, there's a simple forgiveness form, the 3508S, and the 60-40 split applies for both new and second draw loans. So forgiveness terms, for most of us, these won't really apply, but there are safe harbor rules that were put into effect going back to June of 2020, which seems like about 100 years ago, but just basically last year. And that was when Congress realized that COVID was going to be longer and more difficult than anyone thought. They put in place a series of rules that allow people to increase their forgiveness if things happen outside of their control. And so, whether it's full-time equivalent employees at the end of the forgiveness period, or it's wages, if you've encountered problems that were outside of your control, your business, you owned a restaurant, you were simply closed, you did massage therapy and you couldn't work because you couldn't touch people, then these are safe harbor rules that you can use to increase your forgiveness. Next one. So the safe harbor rules, again, they're designed to help in circumstances beyond your reasonable control. If your FTEs, your full-time equivalent employees, were reduced by government order, because you couldn't open, that's taken into account. If you're unable to bring employees back, even though you've tried, that'll be taken into account. If hourly and wage reductions happened, even though the goal was not to, that can be taken into account. If you had employees who you offered work to but refused to come back at the same salary, same position, et cetera, That'll be taken into consideration. So these 4 safe harbor rules will increase your forgiveness. Forms and explanations are available online, and your lenders will help you with them. And so far, it's worked very well. Next one. So if you're applying now, remember, you calculate your aggregate payroll costs based upon data from calendar 2019 or the last 12 months. There are changes that have been made to help seasonal businesses increase the amount of money that they can get. You'll take your average monthly payroll cost as it's computed through the application and the formula, multiply it by 2.5 if your business is not hospitality based, and you multiply that by 3.5 if your business is hospitality based. Your maximum loan for a corporation can't go above $2 million. Next one. Right. A few months ago, they made a change in the calculation for sole proprietors. So now you use line 7 on your Schedule C, which is your gross profit, no longer using line 31, which was your net profit. So they basically allowed people to use a bigger number for the calculation than was allowed for the first draw. PPP2 eligibility is still a function of revenues having decreased by more than 25%, and the maximum amount available to a sole proprietor is still the same, $20,833. And everyone asks, where did that number come from? So $100,000 a year is the maximum wage under the PPP program. If you take $100,000, divide it by 12, multiply it by 2.5, you get $20,833. If you are in the hospitality business, you get 3.5 times the same base. So your maximum is 29,167. So whether you use line 7 or line 31, the maximum PPP loans for self-employed people are the same. And then for most people who qualify for the second draw, they'll use their 2019 Schedule C, because to qualify, your revenues had to have dropped 25% or more in one quarter, which means you're more than likely to have made less money in 2020 than in 2019. And you get to pick whichever year you use. Next one, Brianna. Thanks. So this is just what your Schedule C looks like. And since taxes were due on May 17th, a week ago, everyone should have filed these everyone should have filed these or filed an extension. And so this is the line you'll use as the base for your calculation. Next one, Bree. So find a CDFI with the new formula, which is part of their PP2 application process. And they're taking non-bank clients. But at this point, all the CDFIs that are open are indeed taking non-bank clients, taking new clients. You don't have to be a client of that institution in order to apply, and nor do you have to open an account or any of the other stuff. So if you can't find one, run the PP2 amount both ways to determine the impact. Remember, 5/31 is Memorial Day. No one's going to be open to help. There won't be anybody to answer phones. So don't let this go to the last nanosecond. Next one. Thanks. Again, I think we went over this. It's you figure out your base amount, 2.5 times your average monthly payroll and healthcare costs. If you're in the broadly defined hospitality business, hotels, casinos, food service, caterers, etc., you get 3.5 times the same $2 million maximum loan amount. If you're a corporation, or 20,833 or 29,167 if you're self-employed. Next one. Right, use of proceeds. Remember, payroll costs, minimum of 60% of the funds you get for PPP should be used for payroll. But also remember that a year ago, they changed the use of funds period from 8 weeks to 24 weeks. Everyone has the right to pick a 24-week use of funds period. Almost everyone will benefit from the 24-week period, especially self-employed people, sole proprietors. Take the longer period, amortize the costs over the 24 weeks rather than the 8, you should be able to use 100% of the PPP money for people costs. It makes your forgiveness process much simpler, but you can also pay the interest on your mortgage obligations if you own a place, not the principal, only the interest. You can pay your current rent, that is the rent incurred during the 24-week period. You're not supposed to make rent payments for prior rent due. Utilities, broadly defined. If you had to increase the amount of personal protection equipment that your employees used, face masks, gowns, plastic shields, etc., all of those costs can be applied as well. And eligible costs for payroll, I won't read them all, but they include base compensation and almost all reasonable and customary above the line people costs, whether it's vacation, parental leave, sick leave, the cost of dismissing or separating someone, healthcare benefits, retirement benefits, state and local payroll taxes. These are all included above what you pay your employee directly. So, thank you. So major PPP updates. Remember, the EIDL advance will not be reduced from forgivable PPP loan amounts. So in 2020, when you applied for your EIDL loan, if you checked the box that you wanted the emergency advance, you would receive $1,000 per employee up to a maximum of $10,000. That EIDL advance, which went into your bank account before your EIDL loan was funded, is a grant now. So it has nothing to do with your PPP forgiveness. Covered period, again, went from 8 weeks to 24 weeks. Everyone has the option to use 24 weeks. Almost everyone will benefit from the longer use of funds period. Group insurance, such as dental and vision, are all eligible expenses. And well, the last bullet didn't count anymore, really, program's over. Next one. Right, remember, PPP does not count for your federal taxes. So whatever you got in PPP is not a taxable event for your 2020 tax return. your 2020 tax return that you just filed. The gross income to a business, PPP loan amounts are taken out, and any expenses that you used for forgiveness are also usable expenses for your business. So if you paid rent and you counted that against your PPP forgiveness, you also take the same rent amount on your normal tax schedule. So the PPP program has no impact at all on your federal taxes, and the same is true for the state of California, up to a maximum of $150,000 PPP loan, which is far over the maximum for individuals and small businesses. Next one. So remember, keep your documents, keep them for 4 years. You want to just keep reasonable and customary things. If you have accounting systems, you'll just keep them in your accounting system. If you're self-employed and you do things manually, maintain a file, photocopy them, take pictures of them, keep a worksheet schedule. The chances of being audited are extraordinarily small, but just keep them in place for 4 years. Next one. Remember, PPP is forgivable. If any portion that's not forgivable becomes a 5-year term loan at 1%. Use of funds, payroll costs, interest, rent, utilities, etc. Apply. Well, now it's basically just the CDFIs, and it's not a collateralized loan, so it's expected to be forgiven. The EIDL loan, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, EIDL, is not forgivable. It's a loan for 30 years at a 3.75% interest if you're a for-profit company, and a 2.75% interest if you're a nonprofit company. And EIDL and PPP were designed to work together. So PPP was designed to pay rent in the period that you're funded, in your 24-week period. Current rent can be paid and charged to PPP. But if you had, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months of past due rent, EIDL could pay for those. EIDL can also pay for normal working capital and inventory expenses. So if you were a restaurant and you needed to buy all new raw materials to get reopened, that's not a PPP expense, but it is an EIDL expense. The other difference in EIDL is that it's a direct SBA program. You apply to the SBA at sba.gov, and they've changed the program a little bit. So, there are UCC1 filings. UCC is just a Uniform Commercial Code -1, which is the form number. And that is simply a form that all lenders file to show that they've lent money to a company, and whatever the asset is, it has nothing to do with your credit rating or anything else. But for loans under $200,000, there's no personal guarantee. And for loans under $500,000, there's no security taken by the SBA. Next one. So things to remember, don't get too lost in or about PPP. It was designed to help millions of companies, sole proprietors, contractors across the country go through a pandemic. It is what it is. So it makes the most sense when you really step back and think about it as a program designed to help companies all across the country maintain employment and for sole proprietors to maintain their income. Keep your documents for 4 years. PPP1 forgiveness is open and working well. Your lender is the point of contact for both the lending process and the forgiveness process. Next one, Bree. And to my personal experience with maybe 400 companies that I've helped, the forgiveness process is going well. I have not had a single client tell me they didn't get 100% forgiveness, which is pretty extraordinary. Again, the 24-week use of funds periods versus the 10-week funding period gives you a lot of time to use the money and use it correctly. So sole proprietors, contractors, self-employed people should all get 100% forgiveness just by using the funds to pay themselves. The EIDL advance is a grant, not deducted from PPP. Any unforgiven portion of a PPP loan becomes a 5-year term loan at 1%, not the end of the universe. PPP is not personally guaranteed so long as it's used for the intended purpose. And you may need to find a borrower that has the new formula up and running, but at this point, you just want to find a lender who's still operating. Next one. And it's been a world-class program. There have been over 10 million PPP loans made in the last, 14 or 15 months? Almost $825 billion for businesses, self-employed people with extraordinarily high levels of forgiveness for those who followed the program. So it's been a great program. And then I'll transfer it back over to Sunita. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. I'm not sure if Bree's ready yet. If she is, great, awesome. We have a poll today. I wanted to find out how many people are clients, advisors, or not non-clients that are attending today. If you can please answer these questions for us, I will give you just like half a minute or so to go ahead and answer this question. That would be wonderful. I also have another question for you, but it's not in the poll. We can ask that right after this. Who is here? An SBDC advisor, small business owner, not yet an SBDC client, small business owners, currently an SBDC client. If you can answer this, that would be awesome. Thank you very much. Give you another half a minute or so. I also wanted to ask everyone, since this is now, we're down to 2 times a month, is that sufficient? Can we go down to once a month for these updates? Since things are not changing as fast as they used to, I don't know of any additional grants or monies coming down the line as of yet. Maybe Carrie does, she has additional information. We don't know, but that's kind of a thought in my head. Can we move forward as of next month, once a month, or do you want to keep it as twice a month next month and then once a month after that? This is here for you. So we want to make sure that we are providing the service to you that you want. So thank you very much. Bree, have many people?
Yeah, so it looks like we've got a good handful of advisors. We've got a good handful of, so we have about 20 more people that are advisors. 23 people are that are small business owners and not yet an SBDC client, and then 35 SBDC clients.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us. If you're not a client yet, you see the service that we provide, and we hope that you will decide to sign up as a client and we can provide you one-on-one service. I also want you to know that our attorney is here. So if you have any questions for him, you can place them within the chat, and hopefully he'll be able to answer them. And if not, like I said, we will try to get somebody else to answer those questions if that is not under his specialty. So thank you again for being here. Now we will take it back away to the additional programs that we have. Next, please. Thank you so much, Bree. Additional programs. We're going to go over the EIDL appeal process, targeted EIDL advance, SBA debt relief. Steve had said the RRF has closed out. There is a question though that I wanted to ask, and I don't know if Carrie's going to be able to answer this or not. The SVOG we're going to go over, and the ERC very lightly. I did tell somebody today they had a pretty, they had a great question, but I asked them to ask at loans@skbdc.com because unfortunately our expert is not on the panel today. And I wanted to get that answer to you, but if you can submit that at loans@askSBDC.com, that would be wonderful. Les is asking, I've just been assigned a client to help her in the finishing up submitting documents for the RRF. I believe she has started the process, but now that it is closed, is she out of luck? Is she still able to upload documents into the system? I don't know for sure on that. I don't know, Steve or Carrie, if you happen to know.
Hi, Sunita, this is Carrie, and I don't know the answer to that question at this point, but they do have a support line number available, and it's in different languages. Let me give that to you now. It's 844-279-8898. So although new applications are now closed, I'm not sure if she had an application in with a number and just needed to upload additional documents, if she can or can't do that. But if she calls the 800 number, they will be able to respond to that question for her.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Carrie. I really appreciate that. Les, I hope
You're
that
welcome.
helps. Sorry, we couldn't give you a specific answer on that, but it's a great question. And as soon as we find out, if you can let us know, Les, what you find out, then that way we can provide that info to everybody. So let's move on to the EIDL disaster loan. It is open and they are accepting applications. Somebody did ask me how long it's taking. It could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 4 weeks to go through this process. Some of them are really quick and some are taking just a little bit longer, but definitely not as much time as it was in the past. So, you know, about 6 months or a year ago, it was taking longer. New applications are going by much faster. You have at this point in time until December 31st to apply for the EIDL loan. Next, please. SBA has also increased the loan amount from $150,000 to $500,000, and businesses that received a loan subject to the previous loan limits can submit a request for an increase at this time. So SBA will reach out directly via email and provide more details about how businesses can request an increase. A new loan applications, any loans in process when the new loan is limits were previously, if you have not gotten funded yet, your maximum would be $500,000 now. Next, please. EIDL payments. So your first payment period is been extended. So loans received in 2020, first payment date is extended to 24 months from date you receive the funds instead of 12 months as previous. Loans received in 2021 this year, first payment date is 18 months from the date you receive the funds. So it's from the date you receive the funds. Interest still does accrue from the date that you receive the funds. So please know that. If you decide that you want to pay these payments, you can. We can direct you on how to do that, but it's just right through the SBA, and we can provide that info for you if you need. You can ask us in the Q&A and I can get that to you. Next, please. The EIDL appeal process. This is still happening. If you were declined or you need to be reconsidered for one reason or another, you have up to 6 months to get reconsideration in to the pdcrecons@sba.gov. Sorry, you have 6 months. Now, if it's more than 6 months, please write a letter and the reasons why it's taken you longer for reconsideration. And they do read these letters, and it is part of your reconsideration process if it is more than 6 months. So if you applied for EIDL and were denied, do not reapply. Please go through the reconsideration process. I know it is taking some time, but they're doing their best to get everyone through the system. And we do apologize. I'm sure they've hired more people, and Carrie could speak to that as well. But the process is working. It is just taking some time to do that. SBA's team will let you know what documents are needed. SBDC can also give you that information, but SBA is going to give you the 4506T document that is related to this particular process here. So wait for them for that document so that way it could be expedited. Next, please. The SBA for the targeted EIDL advance will reach out to those who may qualify via email with instructions to determine eligibility and submit documentation. We'll balance out a previous EIDL advance to the full $10,000 if the business is in a low income community, suffered greater than 30% economic loss, and has 300 or fewer employees. Those who applied for an EIDL advance but didn't receive funds due to the lack of funding will receive a full $10,000 if they meet the same criteria as above, and per targeted EIDL advance funding availability. So it's all about the availability of funds. I know this is coming out slowly as well, but there are people that are receiving these funds. So please know that people are receiving funds for this. It's just taking a bit of time. Next, please. SBA debt relief, this is still going on. So if you happen to receive, qualifying loans approved by SBA prior to March 27th, 2020, you should have received an additional 2 months of payments on principal and interest. And that started back in February of 2021. Underserved borrowers, namely the smallest and hardest hit, will receive an additional 3 months. So that's a total of 5 months of relief. Community Advantage loans and microloans approved by SBA prior to March 27, 2020 will receive 5 months as well of P&I payments. SBA payments of principal and interest on the first 3 months of any newly approved loans will resume for all the loans approved between February 1st and March 30th of 2021. The max cap on all of these are $9,000 per month. And this is all subject to the availability of funds. They still have funds from what I know at this point in time. So this is continuing. Next, please. Loan enhancements, also to go with the debt relief. SBA waives borrower and lender SBA fees for the 7A and 504 loan programs. Steve, in particular, is working with the clients on 504 deals and 7A deals that these fees are being waived, and these fees can be significant. So if you're in a position that you want to buy a building, please reach out to us, reach out to Steve, and we will walk you through that process. Some bank fees may still apply though, so please know that if you do get fees, there are some fees that still apply, but the larger fees, such as the 504 or the SBA fees, will be waived, or SBA is paying that fee, waiving it. Loan guarantee increases to 90% rather than from 75% to allow banks a little bit more ease to start lending out money. And we are seeing banks lend money. So don't think that they have stopped altogether. They are continuing to lend money. Next, please. Restaurant Relief Revitalization Fund. It has closed out. Application portal is closed. We will find more information if you can help. Hopefully, if you've already have already registered and started your application, that you can still upload documents. That I am not sure at this point in time, but hopefully we'll get that information and provide it to you on the next go around. I want to give you, so if you happen to get the RRF, you have until March 11th, 2023 to spend the funds. So this is for those, and we have seen people get funded already. So just an FYI, it is working. They are getting funds, and even our local people are getting funds. Next, please. Who can apply? So I want to go over this just so you know. This was a fund that happened really fast. They closed out pretty fast too. But restaurants, food stands, food trucks, food carts. I wanted you to have all this information in case you needed the deck. I still wanted you to provide this information to you. We're crossing our fingers that they might put more money into this fund. We don't know yet, but of course it is our hope. So these are those that were able to apply as of the 24th. Next, please. When to apply. I wanted to let you know also, so this is the funding priority period right here. So the first 21 days of the fund awards. During this period, SBA will fund applications where the applicant has self-certified that it meets the eligibility requirements for a small business owned by a woman, veteran, or socially or economically disadvantaged individuals. I've already talked to several clients that are wondering why they have not gotten funded yet. And this is the reason why. The first 21 days, it is for women, veterans, and socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. Second priority period, days 22 through the funds are exhausted, as SBA will accept applications from all eligible applicants and process them accordingly. So all the applications are in at this point, and they are accepting no new applications as of today. Next, please. Priority groups. I wanted to let you know, because I know this is still very confusing to many people. Small businesses concerned that is at least 51% owned by one or more individual who are women, veterans, socially and economically disadvantaged. Applicants must self-certify an application that they meet eligibility requirements. Socially disadvantaged individuals are those who have been subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice or cultural bias because their identity as a member of a group without regard to their individual qualities. Economically disadvantaged individuals are those socially disadvantaged individuals whose ability to compete in the free enterprise system has been impaired due to diminished capital and credit opportunities as compared to others in the same business area who are not socially disadvantaged. If you want more information in regards to this, you can go to sba.gov and you can go to the RRF or rrf.sba.gov for more information. The SVOG, next please. SVOG is actually still accepting applications. So if you are if you are one of these grants are available to these eligible people: live venue operators or promoters, theatrical producers, live performing arts operators, museum operators, motion picture operators, and talent representatives who demonstrate a revenue reduction. So these are the eligible businesses that can still apply, that can apply for the SVOG. If you have not already submitted your information to the sam.gov, you need to right away, because they need to have this information. Just as long as you apply and they know that, you can still move forward. So the processing period is as follows. The first 14 days of program grants will be awarded to venues with a minimum of 90% revenue loss. The second 14 days, grants awarded to venues with a minimum 70% revenue loss. The last 28 days, grants will be awarded to venues with 70% revenue loss. Initial grant can be up to $10 million with a supplemental of 50% of the first grant, meaning that they are going to give this money out to you in segments. It won't be all at once, depending on the loan amount, depending on the amount that you are granted. $2 billion set aside for entities with up to 50 full-time employees. The SVOG entities can receive this grant, but if they do, they are not eligible for the new PPP loan, which everybody kind of knew. We went over this multiple times. You could have applied for the PPP and then minused out what that amount is with the SVOG. Next, please. So this grant is going to be is administered through the SBA Office of Disaster. The grant amount is generally will be about 45% of earned revenue if operation on January 1st, 2019. If the venue was in operation after the 1st of 2019, you calculate the average monthly gross revenue for each full month in operation during 2019 and multiply that by 6. Applicants must have been in operation on February 29th, 2020. You can apply if you received an EIDL loan and or a PPP loan in 2020 or 2021. The SVOG can be used for specific expenses such as payroll, rent, utilities, and other costs to be determined still. So if you need assistance in the SVOG, please reach out to us and we can help you with that as well. Next, please. Employee retention credit. I will go over this briefly. What is the ERC? It's a refundable payroll tax credit that is offset against certain employment payroll taxes. Rules for qualification, tax credit amounts are significantly or slightly different from 2020 to 2021. If you are self-employed, self-employment income Schedule C does not qualify for the ERC. So I want to let you know that off the bat. We do have that as a bullet point number 3, but just as a FYI up front. Which businesses can qualify? Employers that operated during calendar year 2020 and experienced either a Q1, 2, or 2021 because of government orders limiting commerce, travel, or group meetings due to COVID, or 2020 quarterly gross receipts less than 50% of the gross receipts in the same calendar quarter in 2019, or 2021 quarterly gross receipts less than 80% of the gross receipts in the same calendar quarter in 2019. Employers not operating in 2019 may use the calendar quarter in 2020 or the immediately preceding calendar quarter to measure the gross receipt decline. Employers may qualify for the ERC even if they receive the first and second PPP, which that did change several months ago. But so if you're still under the assumption if you receive PPP, you can't also qualify for the ERC. That is not true anymore. You can qualify for the ERC. Next, please. SBA is here. I believe Carrie Ellenwood is still with us. She's on the phone. Thank you so much, Carrie, for joining us. Sorry that you had issues. She is the Deputy District Director of the Sacramento SBA District.
Thank you, Sunita. Yes, it is, Sunita. It is one of those days today for me, but I'm happy to join you and answer any questions. I'll give you a quick update on SBA in general, and then participate in your questions if you have any. So right now for the PPP loan program that has closed with our lenders, such as banks and credit unions, there have been 11,618,000 loans approved for $795 billion through 5,400 lenders who've supported this program for small businesses. In California, there were 669,000 small businesses that received over $35 billion in loans. The Paycheck Protection Program loans, again, as Sunita mentioned earlier, those are forgivable if you use them for at least 60% payroll. It's a great program for small businesses, as well as the lenders' participation has been fantastic. In the EIDL loan program since April, they've approved 3.78 million loans for $205 billion, with 3.6 million of those loans having already been dispersed to small businesses. 78% of all the EIDL loans are less than $100,000. So as Sunita mentioned, this program has been very busy for SBA. We've been having people work 7 days a week to get these loans processed, as well as the reconsideration loans at the SBA for regular EIDL, and then the targeted advance loans. One point I would like to make about the targeted advance is one of the first things that an individual, if they receive an email from SBA indicating that they may be eligible for this loan, they're going to need to look on our website for the mapping tool that will let you know if you are in a low-income community as defined in Section 45D of the Internal Revenue Code. So this is not the typical census low-income tract. It's a different designation. So quite a few people are getting those emails and applying and then finding out they're not exactly in that location. So to save a little time on your part, go ahead and check on our SBA website for that tool where you can map if you're actually in the correct location. And then you would need to have the 30% reduction in revenues and also less than 300 employees. And then if you are looking for the targeted advance, the extra portion that's in that, it would require the extra $5,000 would require a 50% reduction in revenues. But one of the main factors is you do need to be in that low income community as defined by the IRS. If you have a regular EIDL loan and you had applied when the amount was $150,000 and now it's $500,000, you can, as Sunita said, be considered for those additional funds. If for some reason you applied and your business status has changed, so we're finding a lot of small businesses may have been under a sole proprietor and then they changed to an EIN number, and that will flag your application. So you're going to need to work with the PDC recons at SBA.gov to correct that situation. If you have, in the RRF program, if you have applied and your application is in and you have questions or want to know what the status is, as I mentioned earlier, there is a call center in 12 languages. That number is 844-279-8898. So you can find information there. I have not heard of any additional funding that Congress would be considering for this program. I do know there is some visibility to it with some congressional representatives that are interested in looking into that, but I have not heard anything official in regard to that. As Sunita mentioned, the SVOG is still open. Applications are being worked through the disaster organization, and they have those available on our website, sba.gov, in 17 different languages. So you can go to our website, and find more information on that program in different languages. And the last thing I'd like to let y'all know about is on Thursday, this Thursday, tomorrow, at 1 p.m. Eastern time, which is 11 a.m. our time, SBA is offering an online panel discussion with Asian American and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander-owned small businesses that are going to share their business stories about how they were able to utilize our economic aid to pivot during the pandemic. I have a link for that. I'm going to share that via email with Sunita so she can also share that with all of you in regard to that. Should be a great presentation tomorrow, again, at 11 a.m. our time. And that's what I have for today.
Thank you, Carrie. Really appreciate that. Let's see here. Let's go next, please, Bree. I am going to share my screen because I updated this. Sorry that I was not able to update this in time, but I have done so. Can you, thank you. Let's see right here. Can you see the upcoming events, Bree? Awesome. So these are our upcoming events for COVID-19 disaster loan updates. We will have a Wednesday session on the 9th and the 23rd, and then owning and investing in real estate for small businesses and entrepreneurs will happen on Tuesday, June 15th, and that will be presented to you by Steve Roth. Bree, is there any more that you wanted to bring up? This is what I saw on our calendar.
Yeah, so we do have a lovely presentation that is going to happen tomorrow regionally with Dan Casas-Murray. He's going to be presenting the Planning Your Business. If you'd like to register for that, I will go ahead and put that event in the chat. We also have regionally the following week, Marketing Your Business. That one's going to be put on by Train Nguyen. And I can also go ahead and put that event in the chat as well. And yeah, that's going to be it for May and beginning of June.
Thanks, Bree. Appreciate that. And then we also have a library full of great information. You can go to learn.norcalsbdc.org. Somebody was asking about the ERC webinar that we had. We had a great ERC webinar about 2 months ago. And you can go to the library to find that as well. You just have to sign up for that to be able to watch it. There are additional events coming up through our centers, through our other specialty advisors as well, our restaurant group, and also our tech group that you can find at sbdc.events/network/calendar, or you can find it just at norcalsbdc.org and go under events. We are going to go to questions. So we have answered quite a bit of questions so far already, but if you have additional questions, you can always go to loans@asksbdc.com. If you have additional questions for us, we can try and help you there, or espanol@asksbdc.com. You can call us at 833-ASK-SBDC, but the fastest way to get to us and for us to return the information that you need is at loans@asksbdc.com. Any more questions today? Let's see here, Evan, in regards to the attorney. Sandra, are we able to get that question over to any of the attorneys to answer that?
Yes, I will share it with them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So Evan, we will get back to you in regards to that. And I think Steve is answering a question right now in regards to another question. I think Ronnie was asking, I know there are some issues in regards to banks being able to accept PPP, or the lender that you are going through not being able to deliver that monies to your account with the PPP. I believe that was an issue earlier on, but that should have been cleared up by now. I've talked to some banks that did say that it was an issue earlier on, but it's no longer an issue. So hopefully that'll get cleared up for you. Another thing is that quite often, but not today, interestingly enough, people are asking about B of A not accepting applications for forgiveness. I did see about 2 weeks ago that they are open for business on forgiveness. You can go through the website. You have to have an account though with them to be able to do that. So that is great information that we can share with you today. Some lenders are not ready yet to accept PPP2 forgiveness applications. They're still trying to get through their first hurdle. So, the first PPP forgiveness. So give them a little bit of time, a little bit of grace in doing that. It is, it's just a process that they're going to have to get through. I'm sure in the next couple of weeks or several weeks coming up, they will start accepting PPP2. They're still going through the application process as well. So maybe they're not looking at forgiveness at this point, since it's still so early in the PPP2 game, the grant process. So just hold on to that. As we said, any information that we can provide you, we will. You can go to loans@asksbdc.com if you need further information. Grant information from the California Relief Fund, please go to Lendistry directly for that, 888-612-4370. Being on the wait list is not a bad thing. That means if you are still in line to be able to get those funds. I know a lot of people are saying I've been on the wait list since maybe the first round. It's just they're going through their lists, and if one person falls out for one reason or another, they bring those waitlist people up and you could possibly get funded. So just know that is still a possibility. Any more questions before we head out? Let's see, Don received invitation to increase idle and requested increase. I have not heard any news. What is the time frame for approval? Unfortunately, we don't have a specific time frame for that. I don't know what the averages are at this point in time, and I'm not sure if Carrie knows. Carrie, do you happen to know what the average time would be?
I don't have an average time. I do know they're working as quickly as they can to get through those. I wouldn't be surprised if it was in the 3 to 4 week period of time. So again, just please be a little patient with them, and hopefully we'll get some more updates on that kind of information to be able to share next webinar.
Thank you very much, Carrie. So as we said,
you're welcome.
We are hearing from a lot of clients that they are on the 3-4th week or so. So hopefully they will start to come through. Patrick, Thank you for the information in regards to that. I'm not sure what that was. Maybe Steve answered the question for you. That makes a little bit more sense. So yeah, it does look like that. Bart is saying, we're on the SBDC website. Can the library be found to access the ERC recording? We can put that within the chat for you, Bart. And Bree's going to do that right in a minute or two. So thank you so much for asking us the question. Any more questions today before we head out of here? Okay. Let's see, if for targeted idle events, how much time do we have to complete the application? You need to apply, you need to do it right away, because if there's somebody else in line that takes those funds, then you may not be able to. So I would ask, what is the holdup, Alex, on being able to complete that document? Are you trying to get the documents together? I would do it as fast as possible, but as correct as possible. So it's not really something to wait too many weeks on. And I think there is a time frame. It should say within the document how long you have. And I don't know if Carrie, you know specifically. I haven't seen specifically the time frame.
I haven't seen the time frame on that either, but once the funds are exhausted, they will no longer be able to take that application. So I concur, Cindy, to encourage people to do it as soon as they get that email, make sure they put everything in correctly, and then respond to that opportunity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Corey, so if you have applied for the PPP and received your first draw, how long does it take to get the second draw? You can apply with your lender right away for your second draw. I don't believe they'll be able to fund you prior to 8 weeks, but it just really depends on the lender. So if go ahead and apply right now before they close it out completely. Let's see here. How much time does it take for idle loan increase request approval? We don't know the time frame on that, unfortunately. It could take 4 to several weeks on that. We don't have the time frame, but when we'll start to see these things funded, then we can give you more information on that. But we don't have a specific time frames at this point in time to be able to provide you. So sorry for that. PPP1 forgiveness, are lenders required to use SBA forgiveness forms? They can use their own form as long as it is pretty similar to what the SBA is asking for. A lot of them are using the SBA form. So if you fill out the form itself, Cindy, you should be able to fill out the online form in a snap. If it's 150 and under, that SBA simplified form is very, very easy to do. You just certify most of the information. If you need us to walk you through that, please reach out to us and we can do that. Any more questions? Dawn says, thank you, great meeting and very informative. Thank you so much, Dawn. We hope that this is information that continues to help everybody. This is what we're here for. So thank you very much, Dawn. We appreciate the feedback. Anybody else today? Okay, Patrick, Steve, you may want to take this one, Steve, offline. So that way, or if you want to answer that one.
Just do it offline.
Okay. Steve's going to do that offline with you. Really appreciate all your help. Thank you so much, Carol. As I said, we are here to help you. Please let your other business owners, your friends, know about this great resource that we put on twice a month now. We have people joining us from other states because they love how we put this together and share it with everybody. And it is information that is, anybody can use. It doesn't matter which state you're in. We are unable to help other people from other states one-on-one, but you can definitely watch these webinars. It is totally fine with us. And the recording, Nina, Bree's going to send you a survey, and that way you can get a copy of the deck and the webinar, and the webinars will be at ASKSBDC probably in about a day or so. Thank you everyone for being here today. We really appreciate it. So there is somebody here from El Paso. Thank you for joining us today, Armando. We really appreciate it. Shout out to El Paso. SBDC, thanks for joining us. I may join one of yours. I think I am on Friday. So looking forward to watching that too. Thank you everyone for being here with us. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to hang out with us and learn. And if you have any questions, you can, after this, loans at ASKSBDC. If not, we will see you in June. Take care and thank you. Thank you, Les. Bye, Nina. Take care. Thank you, team. Steve, Roth, thank you so
Take
much.
care, everybody.
Reed, thank you. Sandra, thank you so much. And Carrie, thank you always for being here. Appreciate it. Bye, everyone.
My pleasure.